month. And an ecstatic month or so of meeting incredible people from different walks of life, all searching for answers in life, trying to find some sort of a different practice or a philosophy other than the life that we all live, which is to just live a daily robotic life. So through this journey in this 1 month, we met, I think, a total of around 400 attendees at the various retreats. And many are becoming a little bit more deeper in their search to find answers in life. And I think as time goes, we will see that this community will continue to grow. Bulgaria is represented by Laura here, the sole representative from Bulgaria, but it was an incredible time there with beautiful souls. And then we had almost 2.5 weeks in Bulgaria, and then we had our retreats in Belgium, where we got to meet I don't know how to pronounce the name, but Malgorzata.
Małgorzata, yes. Almost.
I had a brief exchange with her, and amazing personalities like her and others at the Belgium retreat. And then we had Esther's community with Ewing and Leonie and Naja. They are doing phenomenal in Eindhoven. And there's another, Esther, maybe you can invite Lenneke if she's available. She's also playing a very beautiful role in Netherlands to build loving communities. So overall, the theme of this 1.5 months in Europe was to provide a platform for people to be in a community that is based on the principle of love and serve everyone. And that's all. We keep it really simple. That's what our communities are based on. And to give everyone a space, a sacred space, a safe space to grow in their personal spiritual lives. Oh, Ekaterina has joined. She's also from Bulgaria. She is one of the pillars in Bulgaria with Laura and others. So this was overall the 1.5 month trip to Europe. So thank you all for joining us on the Heartspace. And it's so nice to be with all of you. And this coming week, we are all heading out to, it's about 45 souls. We're heading out to India on a spiritual pilgrimage to dive deeper into the practice of this self-realization, what it is, and how to be in the company of millions of people who are energetically moving up in their own personal spiritual practices. Lenneke, thank you for joining us. Lenneke is another powerhouse. She is located in Den Bosch. And
Daddy,
it's amazing.
is that your office? What is it?
Thank you, Keshavi. So our discussion today, next week we'll be in India. So our discussion today is to understand what is this word commonly used in the yoga text called the samsara. Has anyone heard of this word samsara? Yes, everyone has heard. Samsara means The cycle of life. What is the cycle of life? Because once we understand what is the cycle of life, then we will start to ask ourselves the question, what is life? This path of spirituality, we commonly use this process called Vedanta, which is the process of self-inquiry. It is through this process of self-inquiry we're able to find that deep bhakti. So this bhakti and Vedanta are these two beautiful parallel tracks that we base our communities on, which is to continuously inquire about the self, from the self, with the self, by the self. And thereby, when we get to know the self, we will get to know the Supreme Self. And so, today's discussion is based on this word of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. So, the cycle of birth and death, what it means is endless life, life that never ends, life that is eternal. And this is what it makes you see, the wheel of life. Now, you'll notice that in the yoga circles, they don't emphasize so much about material pursuits as much as they emphasize the pursuit of next life, because they know that life is eternal, and after this life there's another life that we have the opportunity to upgrade to a higher body, to a higher level of consciousness. So this question is asked commonly by all sages. So I want to tell you a small story about a king. This king, his name was Parikshit Maharaj. And he was a king that was cursed by a Brahmana. Brahmana means an ascetic who practices spiritual life, but they are endowed with tremendous amount of spiritual powers. So this young boy, he went to his ashram and he noticed there was a snake wrapped around his father's neck while his father was in deep meditation. You know, when you're in deep samadhi, you don't realize what's happening around you. You're physically there, but energetically and your consciousness is on a different plane. So he was completely oblivious to the fact there was a snake, a dead snake placed around his neck. Imagine a little child walking in on you and you're in deep meditation and there's a snake around your neck. He will freak out because they're not used to it. So this boy, he saw this snake around his father's neck and he really panicked and he freaked out. And then he felt that it was extremely rude of whoever put this snake around his father's neck. And then he was very upset. So he went through different emotions. And in that state of anger, in that state of rage, that someone had disrespected his father, he put his hand on his thread, which is a typical attire, a thread that you'll notice people wear. And this thread contains, you'll see I have one as well. And this is a thread that people do a lot of meditation with, and they hold on to their spiritual powers. And so this boy, he grabbed his thread and he let out a curse. Curse is something that you say to someone that the power of that curse actually hits that person. Like in this material world, when we say, I wish you were dead, but it doesn't happen because we do not have that power. But this boy had so much power that he cursed whoever the person was that put the snake around his father's neck, that he must die within 7 days. And as soon as he verbalized the curse, the news spread like wildfire all around the kingdom. And this was a king who was ruling the whole world at that time. And the news reached the king, and the king knew it was him, and that he had put this snake around this sage's neck. So he was like, okay, this is it, time's up. There's nothing more to do. So this king fully acknowledged his mistake, and he was now ready to pay the price. But he wanted to know what to do. I have been cursed to live for just another 7 days. What do I do now? So he started to roam around the kingdom and ask everybody this question. If I have 7 days to live, what should I do with life? And he started to go around and ask the different sages, and nobody would want to give him very direct answers. And he roamed around till he came to a major gathering of saints on the bank of the Ganga River. When he went there, they were all talking, and sages generally, they get together and they discuss these deep philosophical topics. I'll show you when we go to Vrindavan, there's a unique temple. And in that temple, all the sages of Vrindavan would come and have this topic, these discussions. We're going to go to that temple in Vrindavan. So this is what the sages were doing on the bank of the Ganga River. And this king approached that space with all the sages, and he kept going around asking questions, and no one really wanted to give him an answer, because the king was known to be the most powerful king, and you couldn't fool him, Then he approached a 16-year-old boy who from birth, the moment he was born, he ran away into the forest. And this sage was considered to be one of the most purest of all the sages. And he approached the 16-year-old sage and asked the sage, how do I prepare for my next life? And as soon as the sage heard this question, he asked, well, I have criterias, you can't just ask me for information. And I'm not just, I need to make sure that you're very sincere. So he made a promise that for 7 days, he will not eat, he will not sleep, he will not tend to the bodily needs. That is the sacrifice that he is ready to make in order to get the answer to his question. And the sacrifice that the king makes, this young sage, Sukadev Goswami, he felt very confident this is the right student to know the answers for life. And so this whole Purana called the Srimad Bhagavad Purana, it is a book, not a book, a series of books. It has 12 cantos. It talks about the art of dying. Means how to depart from this body. And the beautiful essence of this book is not, it is the art of dying, but it is the art of never dying. It's dying without dying. How is that even possible? So this is why this book has tremendous amount of emphasis in the yoga circles. How to die without dying. And in that book, there's, in this Purana, it's called the Bhagavad Purana, one of the 18 yoga texts, prominent yoga texts. We see there's tremendous amount of information given about how to prepare our consciousness and how to continuously upgrade our consciousness because it is the consciousness that determines the next destination of the soul. And so how to gradually, systematically upgrade our consciousness, that while you're dying, you're attaining a spiritual eternal space where there is no death. So dying without dying is the real essence of the teachings that we find in this Puranas. The interesting aspect of this book is a lot of emphasis on how it is such an incredible universal phenomenon that even though there is the cycle of life continuously going on, yet we all feel that we will never die. And this is another question that was asked in the Mahabharata, great epic. Whenever you get a chance, you may be able to read this great epic Mahabharata. The 5 kings, they are wandering in the forest and they're very thirsty after hunting, and they all went to get some water from a lake. And every one of the brothers, there's 5 brothers, they're called the 5 Pandavas. So the youngest brother was sent to go get some water. And when he went to drink the water from the lake, a voice from a tree, distant tree, very deep in nature, told the young king, please don't drink this water unless you answer my questions. And this young king was so thirsty, he didn't have time to answer questions. And so he drank the water and he dropped dead on the bank of the river. So the second king, the second youngest, he was also sent out to find his brother and get some water after waiting. And he came to the same location. He noticed that his brother was laying on the ground, dead, lifeless. And as soon as he thought, let me drink some water and then I'll send to my brother. Then he tried to drink the water and a voice came again and said, please don't drink the water. You have to answer my questions. He thought, who is this person? So he went ahead and drank the water and he also dropped dead. In this way, the third brother, Arjuna, he came, same thing happened. And then Bhima, the fourth brother, he also came and he found them and he wanted to drink some water because he's really thirsty. And he also didn't take the time to answer the questions. He drank the water and he also dropped dead. And finally, the fifth brother, Yudhishthir, he came to drink the water and he found all his brothers were dead. And he paused for a while. What is going on here? My brothers are the most powerful warriors on the planet. Who has the power to kill them? But he thought, let me drink some water, really thirsty. So he tried to drink the water and this voice from a distance. My dear king, this is my lake. You cannot drink this water unless you answer my questions. And he says, I'm not sure who you are and what powers you have to kill my brothers, but I'm happy to answer your questions. So he paused and there was a beautiful discussion that takes place between this yaksha, who was this, you can call them alien from another planet. And he was sitting on the tree and asking questions to Yudhishthira, this great king. And beautiful Q&A sessions happen in that part of the Mahabharata. But one of the most profound questions he asked is, what is the most amazing thing in the whole world? Some people will say, oh, the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building, or, this beautiful tower in Saudi Arabia. But Yudhishthira Maharaj, being a great philosopher and a realized king, so he said the most amazing thing in the world is that everyone has to die, but those around, observing death all around them, they think that they will never die. So this is the most amazing thing. And this yaksha on the tree, he was very happy with all his answers. Then he said, now that you have answered all my questions, I will revive all your brothers, and now you may drink all the water from my beautiful lake. So in that part of the Mahabharata, we study this important principle of understanding the most amazing thing is the illusion that our consciousness is covered with, that even though we see, we hear, we feel all around us, but yet our consciousness is so covered that we do not see it. We see, yet we don't see. So this is the very reason we're discussing this principle of the samsara, this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. These are the four spokes. The wheel on the bicycle has many spokes. These are the four spokes of the wheel of life. How the body is continuously changing, even on a cellular level. Every 7 years, we are a different person. So this eternal changing of life, and yet there's something that does not change at all. So how to change without changing? And this is the whole process that we study in the yoga philosophy, the inner transformation. The inner transformation is what yoga is focused on. The external transformation is going to happen by the push and the pull of time, which we discussed in another class before, understanding what time is. So this the cycle of samsara, birth, old age, disease, and death, it goes through different species of life. There in the yoga text we study Jalaja Navalakshani, very beautifully in Sanskrit text, explains how there is 8,400,000 species of life. Very precise. 8,400,000 species of life, and how a human birth that we have with our intelligence is one of those 8,400,000 species of life. So for those who may be interested, there's 900,000 species of life in the water, aquatic life, and 2 million. These are numbers we find in the yoga text. 2 million non-moving species, such as trees and plants. When you go to the forest, you're amazed to see how in every country there is different kinds of trees based on the different weather conditions. And then there is 100,000 insects and reptiles. These are from the yoga text. And 1 million different kinds of birds. And you know what quadrupeds are? Species with 4 legs. And there are 3 million species with 4 legs. And there is 400,000 human species. out of 400,000 human species, we are only one of them. So that means there is a 14 planetary system that we are in the middle of it. That's why this is called Martya Loka. Martya means where there is death. On the other planets above us, there is no death. There is only life, and they live for long periods of time. And whenever there is time for death, they come into this world. So this is a world they call death, Martya Loka in Sanskrit. This is where death happens. And our ability on how we practice to elevate and upgrade our consciousness will determine if we can go to a higher space, a higher planet where there is no death. There is no birth, old age, disease, and death. This samsara is a phenomenon in this middle planet called the Martya Loka. And this is why this world is considered to be the most profound and the most complete place where an opportunity is given to each and every one to completely transform and transmigrate and transition into higher levels of being. This is the place. This is like Grand Central Station in New York, where all the trains come in one place, and from here, everybody goes in all different directions. So this is why this word samsara is very important to understand. That we have a unique opportunity as we go through this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death, and birth, old age, disease, and death again and again and again. In this life, in this age, on this planet, we have the opportunity to split, to break away from the cycle of repeated birth and death. And that's the uniqueness of this world that we live in, and this time and this place. So this is why you will see Shankaracharya, who's the founder of the Vedanta philosophy, Advaita Vedanta philosophy. He writes very beautifully, that now that you have understood everything by asking yourself all these questions, now it is your time to see how you can get out of this wheel of samsara, birth, old age, disease, and death. This is what they call the conveyor belt. Like you go to an airport. When I just got back from Europe, they had actually lost my bag. So I was waiting at the conveyor belt number 2 in Atlanta, and the bags were going around in circles. And there was a bag that looked just like my bag. And everyone had taken their bags. There was 3 of us waiting for our bags. And there was a bag that wasn't claimed, looked just like my bag. And every time that bag came, I thought, oh, this is it. This is my bag. And you could see that bag came around once, twice, and just kept going around in circles. So this is what happens in our lives. That this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death is something that we're going to be continuing to go life after life, because we are eternal. This body that we have is going to go through 8,400,000 species. We're going to go and do the same thing, birth, old age, disease, and death, in all different species of life. And eventually, when we get the opportunity to elevate our consciousness, to upgrade our consciousness, to completely transform and transcend our consciousness on a higher material plane, a higher spiritual plane, then we can exit out of this wheel of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. So this is the lesson that I was meditating on today, the important practice that we can all undertake so that we don't have to be doing this over and over again and again and thinking that it'll be different next life. The same actions that we do every day, thinking the result will be different, you may not be successful in it. So therefore, whatever we do in life, we have to reevaluate and see, what is it that I'm doing? Where is this going? And you can see all around you, your fathers, your uncles, your grandfathers. Are we living the same life that they lived? Where are they now? I often used to think, because my mother had passed away when I was very young, I didn't see her after the age of 5. So as a kid, I used to always wonder, where did my mother go? Who was she? Why did she come here? And will I ever see her again? So this continuous questions about everybody around me made me ask deeper questions. Because unless we ask questions to the self, we may not be able to dive deep into ourselves to find that beautiful truth that lays deep hidden within ourselves. Our true spiritual nature is what we need to try and find. And this whole Purana, the Srimad Bhagavad Purana, is strictly dedicated towards finding eternal life. Even while this body may be just depleting and falling apart, the consciousness is already migrated to another spiritual body. Just recently, when I came to Belgium, we were meeting one of the students who was leaving her body. And the beautiful transition that took place, and those that observed the transmigration and the transition that she had, you could see her consciousness was very evolved. And as a result, when we have evolved consciousness, what happens is our next body that we get a body that suits that unique evolved consciousness. There's different bodies. Based on different bodies, based on different consciousness, we get a different suit. For example, pigs, they have a unique suit, a consciousness. They have the unique consciousness, and to have a suit for that particular consciousness, they have a pig body. They're living in, at least in India, when you go, you will see pigs are normally laying in the sewer, and they eat in the sewer and they lay in the sewer. Imagine from your perspective what that consciousness is. So depending on the degree of elevated consciousness, to that degree, we get a body that is suitable for that consciousness. And ultimately, when we come to this transcendental consciousness, you get a transcendental body that is completely unaffected by time. Completely unaffected by the 5 elements of this material world, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether. And that is called transcendental body because our consciousness is transcendental. So our pursuit in this life is always to see how to continuously be on a journey to upgrade and uplift and raise our consciousness to the highest possible level. Because then you get the highest spiritual experience possible. I mean, who wants to just lay in the sewer and have kids in the sewer and just die in the sewer. I mean, it sounds pretty boring. But imagine being in a space where your consciousness is so elevated that your whole life, your whole existence is this transcendental divine consciousness. And this is what we learn in the tradition of bhakti. How to systematically cultivate our consciousness. And when we systematically cultivate our consciousness, then it's very easy to just move from this material consciousness, this material samsara, the wheel of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death, and going through so many species of life just for reasons that is simply because we have not asked these deep, profound questions to ourselves. So I'm so happy to be with all of you. I am in Houston right now. I came to Atlanta and then I had to come to Houston for some presentations. And then I'll head back to Atlanta on Sunday, and then on Thursday we fly out to India. And I'm super excited that even while we're in India, we have to figure out somehow to always stay connected in the Sangha. There we'll be having ecstatic kirtans every day, deep discussions about understanding the value of being in powerful energy spiritual vortexes and allowing those energies to engulf our existence and lift us upwards. And this is what we're going to be doing for the next 10 days after Thursday. So thank you so much for joining us on the Heartspace. I appeal to all of you to please practice your spiritual sadhana every day. Please keep in mind that you are the most valuable asset, and your spiritual journey is the most valuable path and process to raising your consciousness. And if we continue to value ourselves, because it'll be hard to value yourself unless you really understand your true spiritual nature. Is that Esther's babies?
Here's one of my babies. They are bigger than me, huh?
Nice.
Say hi. Hi. Hi, Veda.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah.
I was staying in Esther's house with all the amazing sages there, yogis, and it was filled with a lot of loving spiritual energies there. Thank you, Esther. So is there any, we have 15 minutes. Is there anything anyone would like to share or have any questions or doubts or clarifications? Yes, Diane, I think you have something you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I have a question. So when I was just thinking, so when it comes for my time to leave my body, right, and my soul leaves its body, is there does the divine choose does the divine direct what my new body will be, or does the soul itself just find it? Do you know how that works?
Yes, that's exactly how it works. When you leave your body, depending on the consciousness that you have, when you depart this body, you'll get a body suitable to the next level of consciousness. In Sanskrit, it's very beautiful, you know. The Sanskrit words of what I just said is called Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhavam Tyajati Ante Kalevaram. Very beautiful description is there of what happens. It is that consciousness that you have when you depart this body And that consciousness that you have will determine what kind of body you'll get. Because the consciousness has to suit that body, and that body has to suit that consciousness. And that's why you'll notice there is so much emphasis given that we should cultivate spiritual consciousness every single day. Because it is hard to have deep spiritual consciousness when you're leaving this body, because the body is going through a lot of pain. And the test to our consciousness is, how is our consciousness when our body is in pain? You will notice when someone's body is in pain, they cry for mommy, some cry for daddy, some just scream, and some just, different emotions are out there when the body is going through different challenges. So imagine you're facing this most excruciating pain. Where will your consciousness be at that time? I know that when I'm with people and someone gets hurt or something, they immediately use different words that are very expressive and not very high frequency in spiritual consciousness. And so whenever there is pain, we use very harsh, sometimes, words to express that emotion. But if you have higher consciousness, when such things happen, you may not use those words. You may immediately internalize and see, oh, this is so nice that someone just, threw a rock on my foot. I'm realizing that perhaps I just burned some bad karma in my life. And that's amazing that I just burned some karma. Now I'm even more freer. So these are the consciousness differences in how we react to events in our lives. Depending on our consciousness, we will react and respond differently. So when the time of departing this body comes, whatever consciousness we have cultivated throughout our lives, that is the consciousness that we'll have. So you can very easily predict what your next life is going to be if you just watch your daily routine. You watch your daily routine. What is my consciousness daily? What consciousness am I cultivating? And if I just keep doing this daily routine for the next 100 years, I know what I'll be in my next life. It's not very hard. It's very easy, because the yoga text gives very simple principles to understand how to change and form our own destiny. And we have full freedom to choose what consciousness, what body you want to have. So, Diane, thank you for your question. I don't know if that helped at all.
Yeah, that helped a lot. And it made me think of my mom and just go like back to her, like when she was transitioning. And like, it really brings me a lot of peace, because like she was so peaceful as she transitioned. And it was just really great.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bhava Mai has something she wants to share.
Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, I wanted to know what would it be like to practice forgiveness? Sometimes it's easy to forgive, but when it's someone that's really, really close, like family members, I find it really difficult. I was having some issues with one of my family members, one of my sisters, and I wanted to just move forward with it, but every time the opportunity presents itself, I find myself just not really able to move forward because of so much pain. So what does it look like to move forward in forgiveness? And like if I were to pass, what type of consciousness, I mean, like, to move forward and not have that forgiveness, what type of consciousness would that lead me to in my next life?
Yes, it's a very beautiful question. In the story that I was sharing today of this great king, Parikshit Maharaj, when he was cursed, when he found out that this Brahmana had cursed him, that he would die in 7 days, there were many, many people that came to reverse that curse because there were other sages who had a lot of power. And this one Brahmana, another ascetic, was coming to the kingdom of Maharaj Parikshit, and he wanted to reverse the curse of his death. So when he came, then when he was walking to meet the king, he met another person. He says, "Where are you going, oh dear ascetic?" He said, "I'm going to meet this King Parikshit because he was cursed to die in 7 days, and I can stop that curse by the sheer power of my austerities that I have done for thousands of years." And this person was like, "Wow, you really have that power?" He said, "Yes." So he said, "Let's do a test." And he went and he saw this big, massive tree, and he lit this banyan tree. Banyan trees are massive, massive. If you see banyan trees in India, when you come, you'll see how big they are. And so they lit this banyan tree on fire, and this ascetic who had all these mystical powers, he immediately turned that fire off, and the tree that was completely burned to ashes, he immediately sprouted another tree in that same space, fully grown, full-fledged with his mystical powers. So then this person that was talking to the ascetic, he said, "Wow, you truly do have all that power to change." But the person that was asking this question, the ascetic, this question, that same person happened to be the very serpent that was supposed to take the life of the king. And the serpent's name was Takshaka. The serpents have their own planet below this earthly planet. They have their own planet of the snakes. And so there they have various different snakes of various different powers. And he was considered to be one of the most venomous snakes, so venomous that if he was in a lake and someone was just flying over the lake, by the sheer power of his poison, they would just drop dead and fall into the lake and die. So very, very powerful serpent. And because the curse was there of the Brahmana, and the serpent was just making sure that the curse of the Brahmana was carried through. So he came and he persuaded the Brahmana to not go meet the king. But many such ascetics had gone to the king saying, "Hey, we can reverse this curse. Please don't die. Please don't leave. Just stay with us. You are the most virtuous king." And he was like, "No, I have to accept the consequence of my actions." And when he went through this process of acceptance, first of all, he went through a process of acknowledgement of what was his role in this curse. And then he went through a process of acceptance. And then finally through a process of surrender. He said, "No, I fully accept whatever is coming my way. Please do not try to change my destiny." And so this is an example that we see in the yoga text, the importance of acceptance and surrender, because unless there is acceptance and surrender in our lives, we will be stuck here. We will be stuck in this Martya Loka, this middle portion of the planet. We won't be able to elevate ourselves. It is the acceptance and surrender that will allow us to move and free ourselves from the cycle of samsara and move to the higher realms and all the way to the spiritual realm. So this is what is explained is a common practice for those that want to break free from the cycle of repeated birth and death, that accepting life for what it is, that everything that is coming in our life, it is something that we have packed in some lifetime. And so it is simply now unpacking what we have once packed in our life, because karma is eternal in this body. In this material body, karma will just carry from one body to another. So therefore, the sages are very deeply involved in this process of helping others to break free from the cycle of repeated birth and death through this process of bhakti, through the process of practicing daily sadhana, daily practice of elevating our consciousness. And that is one of the most powerful points, is the principle of acceptance, acknowledgement of things that are happening in our lives, acknowledging it and accepting what is happening in our lives. It doesn't mean you just like take all the blame for everything. Acceptance is a process that is very deep. One day we'll discuss as well. And then eventually you surrender that there is a divine plan that is beyond my understanding and my comprehension. And this divine plan is doing its thing. And I'm part of that divine plan. And then that is when we have deep surrender. And in that space of surrender, there's nothing but freedom and spiritual joy. Because that's what surrender means. Surrender means I am no longer the doer. I am no longer the controller of everything in my life and everything in this world. You'll notice that when you practice this, even in your relationships, everything will get better. To acknowledge, to find acceptance, and surrender to our divine plan. Every plan has our individual plans, and then there is a cosmic plan within that individual plan and within this universe. It is confusing when we don't understand what the plans are, but that is the beautiful opportunity we have to utilize this beautiful gift of having a human birth and ability to ask questions, ability to practically do something to elevate our consciousness. Elevating our consciousness requires practical daily activities, conscious activities, mindful activities that shift our consciousness. So Bhavamai, I don't know if I was able to answer your question, but I just thought I would just share that this principle that in this story of Maharaj Parikshit in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran very beautifully explains.
Yes, thank you for your answer. I enjoy hearing these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, and I was actually thinking about how Parikshit Maharaj was so forgiving
Yes.
to the Brahmin boy, and I'm always thinking of how when so many different stories, even Krishna in the Mahabharata, when he was cursed, everyone that's being cursed, they accept these these as blessings, as benediction. And so I'm learning to practice that. As I was just saying, it's a bit difficult. I guess when the person is so intimately knitted to me, you know, it's a family member. So I'm finding it a little more challenging to deal with, but I'm definitely willing to open up so that I don't have to take this same low consciousness with me to my next body.
Yes. Family members, your closest friends and relatives are the best instruments for your spiritual growth. They can cause you the most pain, and they can also cause you to have the deepest spiritual realizations. So thank you all so much. I am so grateful to each and every one of you for giving me a little space in your hearts and in your minds. And I always rejoice in the love that you all share with me every week. So please come next week and we'll see you. And if you have any suggested topics that you would like us to discuss or questions, and you know, because I've been giving a lot of these classes, so sometimes I'm not sure that if there's any particular or specific topics from the spiritual practice or from the Vedas, from any Puranas that you would like me to cover. Yes, I'm so happy to be with everyone, and please contact Keshavi.
We're going to be in India next week. It sounds like we're going to try to do the Heartspace, but I'm not sure what's going to happen.
I have a feeling the heart space will always be available. So namaste, everyone. Please have a wonderful, wonderful
Namaste.
stay, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Namaste.
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 Hi, Chevy, can I ask you a question? It's me, Claire.
Yeah, let me stop the recording. We're still live on YouTube. 1 second.